Well, welcome in, Tiger fans. We are live for a Wednesday afternoon, a hump day afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is the Babin on the Bayou show on this fine Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday, May 6th, 2026. Thank you for tuning in to the show today. Got a lot to get to. Start the show. We'll recap LSU Baseball's midweek victory in their final midweek game of the season last night, beating Tulane 13-6 in the box. Towards the end of the show, we'll talk a little bit. Wanted to dive into a little bit of LSU football, a little bit of high school recruiting on the LSU football front, kind of get into that. Before we get into that, I wanted to remind you of some of our wonderful sponsors. First, the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Shield Heating and Cooling, best AC team in the business today. Remember that number, 225-46-BAYOU. 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU, for your free AC system clean and check, courtesy of our wonderful friends and the wonderful team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Again, that number is 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU, for your free AC system clean and check for every AC system in your home, courtesy of our wonderful friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Plus, the bakery over at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes and Confections. Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes and Confections has it all, from fresh baked chocolate chip cookies to cupcakes to cake squares to custom decorated cakes. They have it all. You can contact them. Their number is 225-250-1950, 225-250-1950, or you could visit them in person. Their bakery is located in the city of Central Louisiana, 8565 Rome, ROME Drive, 8565 Rome, ROME Drive. They have a storefront that always stays fully stocked for all of your last minute dessert needs. To the best bakery around. Give them a call today, 225-250-1950 or 8565 Rome Drive, Rome, ROME Drive, in the city of Central Louisiana. That's the team over at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes and Confections. Okay, folks, again, I greatly, as always, greatly appreciate you folks for tuning in to this edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. Let's get into some LSU baseball recap. The Tigers take down the Green Wave last night, take down Tulane in the final midweek game of the season. Tigers are now on a 5-game win streak. LSU beats Tulane 13-6 last night. Man, this team, it is the offense has just been clicking, man. The offense is in a really good rhythm, really, over the past 2 to 3 weeks, since the UNO game, before the Mississippi State series in Starkville. Of course, all of that coincides with starting your freshmen, some of your other freshmen getting more playing time, like a guy like William Patrick, like a guy like Jack Ruckert, and you put up 10 runs against UNO, 8 runs in every game against Mississippi State, 12 runs against Southeastern. You put up 6, 7, and 7 against South Carolina, and then you put up 13 more runs last night in the game against Tulane. Let's get into some of it. Again, LSU scored 13 runs last night, won the game 13-6. The offense had 13 hits, including 7 doubles last night for the Tiger offense. Really good night. Scored 9 runs in just the first 2 innings of this game. The first 6 LSU batters of the game all reached base. LSU put up 6 runs in the first inning alone. I know they put up 9 runs in the first 2 innings of this game. It was just a great night for this LSU offense. But I talked about it on the show on Monday. This offense is led by what I believe is right now, and what Jay Johnson believes. He said this last night in his post-game presser. The best player on your team right now. The best player on this team right now is Cade Aaron Beatty. Cade Aaron Beatty is having a phenomenal season, folks. He is having a phenomenal season. And really, the last month, Beatty has just been on fire, folks. Cade Aaron Beatty has just been so good. He was great again last night. Had 2 hits last night, including a 2-run home run in the first inning of the game last night. And he's also getting a lot better defensively, folks. He's also playing really good defense. He gunned down a runner in the first inning, I believe, last night, trying to steal second. There was also a situation where he did this once in the South Carolina series, and then he did it again in the game last night where he picked off a runner at first who kind of got caught kind of, I don't know what he was doing, how you get picked off at first in that situation when you're down 7 runs, but Beatty was able to pick him off. And then he made one of the best defensive plays of the entire season. I mean, the play he made in foul territory, sliding into the wall and catching the ball with his backhand. I mean, it's one of the plays of the year. Like, that's a Sports Center top 10 highlight play. It was an amazing play. So not only has Beatty just been in fuego at the plate lately, but he's also gotten a lot better defensively and just improving, man, just improving. And I said it, on the show Monday when Jay Johnson tells you at the beginning of the season, when Coach Johnson says, hey, that guy at some point, Cade Aaron Beatty, is just going to be the flat out best player on this team. You need to listen, because right now, Cade Aaron Beatty is flat out the best player on this team. I mean, Ronnie Rance mentioned it on the broadcast last night. Cade Aaron Beatty a month ago on April 4th was batting .259 on the season. A month later, he's batting over .330 right now with 41 RBIs, 15 homers, 9 homers in conference play alone. Cade Aaron Beatty is the best player on this team right now, and he's one of the best players in SEC right now. He is flat out balling out, man. He is phenomenal lately. I love what I'm seeing out of Cade Aaron Beatty. Again, just the fact that a month ago, April 4th, he was hitting .259. Then on Easter Sunday, he has one of the best single game performances in the history of LSU baseball with 4 home runs in a single game in Knoxville on an Easter Sunday. And now he's hitting over .330 with 15 home runs on the season. Just masterful stuff by Cade Aaron Beatty over the past month. And he's the best player on this team, like I said before, right now. We'll get into some more stuff from this game last night. A few more things. Mason Braun had a double last night. He was also hit by a pitch, and he drew 2 walks. So again, man, just the plate discipline from Mason Braun as a true freshman is crazy to me. The plate discipline, the maturity, just knowing to lay off of pitches. I mean, he drew 6 walks in the South Carolina series. He drew 6 walks in a 3-game series alone. He drew 2 walks in the game last night, got hit by a pitch and hit a double. I mean, he's leading the team in on base percentage. He's a great leadoff hitter as a true freshman. Just great stuff by the freshman Mason Braun. Derek Curiel had 2 hits last night, including a double. Again, LSU had 13 hits and 7 doubles in the game last night against Tulane. Stephen Milam extends his hitting streak. He's been great lately. 16-game hitting streak for Stephen Monster Milam. Milam had 2 doubles and 4 RBIs last night to extend his hitting streak to 16 games. John Pearson back in the lineup for the this was the first game that Pearson has been back in the lineup in a while. Remember, he was hurt and out for a couple weeks. It was good to see John Pearson back in the lineup at third base last night. He had a double and he had a home run of his own in the 7th inning. He drove in 3 RBIs last night. So a good return game for John Pearson last night. Seth Dardar came back in game 2, the Saturday nightcap of that doubleheader. Played on Sunday, but he played on Tuesday again last night as the DH. And Seth Dardar had a really nice night with 3 hits, including a double and 2 RBIs. You love seeing guys like Seth Dardar and John Pearson both back. And I don't think Dardar is 100% healthy. I mean, but I was listening to the guys from Tingle & Co. talk about this a little bit this morning, how Seth Dardar said in the postgame, I believe in the postgame last night, but basically told Jay Johnson, hey, coach, I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% healthy, but I'm going to give you 100% of what I have. I'm going to give you all I have, even though I'm not 100% healthy. Again, just there's not enough good, kind words, not enough compliments I can give out to Seth Dardar. I love watching him play, and I love seeing him back in the lineup. And again, he had 3 hits, including a double, and he drove in 3 runs last night, or he drove in 2 runs last night. Jack Rucker also had 2 hits last night, including a double. William Patrick had a hit and 2 RBIs last night, so more good stuff from those freshmen. And then Tanner Reeves also had a hit last night. So everybody in this LSU lineup basically had a hit last night. Again, it was a great, great offensive night for the Tigers last night against Tulane. 13 runs on 13 hits with 7 doubles, 2 bombs, 1 hit by Cade Aaron Beatty, and 1 hit by John Pearson. On the pitching side of things, on the mound, the lefty Danny Lockenmeyer got to start, pitched the first 3 innings of the game, only gave up 1 run on 4 hits, and he struck out 5. So overall, I believe that was his longest outing of the season. It was a nice job by Danny Lockenmeyer. Cooper Williams, the lefty, would come in. Williams would pitch the 4th inning, give up 2 runs on 2 doubles. Both of those doubles drove in runs. So 2 runs given up by Cooper Williams in the 4th. Grant Fontenot would pitch 2 innings. Fontenot pitched the 5th and the 6th. He would give up a 2-run home run in the 5th, would Fontenot. But again, Grant Fontenot has been really, really good this season. Love what I'm seeing out of Fontenot. He's one of the guys that you trust, one of the main guys that you trust on this pitching staff. So it was a good night for him last night. Left-hander Ethan Plog retired the side in order in the 7th inning, but then he would give up a solo home run to the leadoff batter in the 8th inning before freshman Zion Theophilus would come in the game. He would pitch the 8th and the 9th. Theophilus would pitch the final 2 innings of the game last night, and he would not give up a run. So again, 5-game winning streak now for the Tigers. Great stuff. Like great stuff. Again, offensively, I calculated some numbers. Some numbers I'll go through here in a little bit, but it's just the offensive surge really from this lineup over the past 9 games. They're playing, feels like they're playing free. It feels like they're playing with a lot more confidence, and it's just 5-game winning streak now. Now, again, you're playing a top 5 team in the country in Athens this weekend in Georgia, and you're going to be a heavy underdog, and that is a very, very tall task. But offensively, and just from this team as a whole, I mean, your pitching staff was excellent this past weekend against South Carolina. And then, I mean, I think offensively over the last 9 games, really, you've just seen an offensive surge, and it coincides with your freshman really stepping up. Omar Cerna did not play last night. Jay said that Omar has been dealing with some type of back issue really over the past week and was unable to go last night. They're optimistic that Omar could come back and play against Georgia and that he's going to be okay potentially. They don't know for sure yet. But again, he's been dealing with a back injury or a back issue, I should say, for about a week now. And he still had a great series against South Carolina. So even dealing with back issues, Omar Cerna is still having a great time, playing great. Like, he's still playing great, even dealing with back issues over the last week. And that was, hopefully he gets back on the field, and hopefully, don't know for sure about Kason Evans. We heard good things. I think positive signs from, I believe he got to throw a little bit yesterday. Don't know all the details on that. Hopefully you get Kason back maybe this weekend. Probably not a start. I mean, I don't know. It's always kind of one of those things where Jay says there's nothing structurally wrong with Kason right now, and he is healthy. I know the issue was he didn't pitch for about 5 to 6 days while he was dealing with the injury, so that's why you didn't really see him against South Carolina. Going to be interesting to see, will you see Kason Evans back in this rotation, and where will you see him if he comes in this weekend for the Tigers against Georgia? Let's get into the comments here. Didn't get to touch on a few things. What is up, Joker? Thank you, Joker, for tuning in. Thank all of you for tuning in. What is up, Randy? What is up, my friend? Great to see Big Baby Pearson back Jr. What do we do now with Dardar, Ruckert, and Big Baby Pearson, who starts this weekend? Man, that's tough, Randy. That's tough. I think you got to keep Jack Ruckert at second base. I think you got to keep Ruckert at second base with how he's playing right now, especially when I don't think Dardar is 100% healthy, is what it sounds like. So I think Ruckert is going to stay at second base. Potentially, you could see John Pearson and Seth Dardar swap at third base. But again, I don't know. Depends on how healthy Seth Dardar feels this weekend. I know that he's been playing, but he's not 100%. That's why he was the DH last night. So I think you could see Ruckert. I think Ruckert is going to stay at second base, Randy. And I think you could see maybe Pearson at third base. And if Omar Cerna is back, which hope to God, pray to God he is, and he's going to be okay and able to play this weekend, you have that, DH role. Cerna and Aaron Beatty have been swapping between catcher and DH over the last few weeks, really, and that's really been good. So that's kind of what I think on that, Randy. What is up, Alex? Thank you so much for tuning in. What is up? Thank you, my friend. Thank all of you for tuning in. I very, very much appreciate it. I did a little bit of kind of crunching the numbers this morning. I've talked about it over the past 9 games, the offensive surge that we've seen. I may do a little bit more on it tomorrow, talk a little bit more about it on the show tomorrow as well. But we talked about how when this offense had been struggling for weeks and weeks and weeks, the situational hitting and the hitting in general had been rough. But you've really seen really good play from the Tigers over the past 3 weeks and over the past 9 games. So I tallied some things up, and this is the math that I came out with today, kind of tallying some things up. Over the last 9 games, LSU is batting .313 total as a team. So total team batting average for the Tigers over the last 9 games, hitting .313. Their average hitting with 2 outs over the last 9 games, LSU is hitting .348. LSU is hitting .348 average with 2 outs over the last 9 games. With runners on base, LSU is hitting .335 with runners on base over the last 9 games. And with runners in scoring position over the last 9 games, LSU is batting .360. Great improvement by this team in terms of situational baseball, which is something that's really key in the SEC when the margins of error are so thin and the competition is so great in the SEC. You got to be able to, we talked about a lot this season, when you got runners in scoring position, with less than 2 outs, are you able to move them over? Are you able to get them in? Whether that's, of course, hits, but ground balls, sac flies, are you able to manufacture runs and produce runs? And again, the Tigers have done a much, much better job of that over the last 9 games, batting .313 as a team over the last 9 games, .335 with runners on base, .348 with 2 outs, and .360 with runners in scoring position over the last 9 games. And that just shows you the improvement that we've seen from this team over the last 9 games. Now, of course, this weekend is going to be a brute. It's going to be a brute for the Tigers playing Georgia in Athens. That Georgia team has been the best team in the SEC this season, flat out. So, it's going to be definitely a step up in competition. I mean, I said it on the show on Monday. The South Carolina team that you played on this past weekend is one of the worst teams in the SEC, and now you're going to play the best team in the SEC. So there's different levels to this. There's different levels to this when you go on the road and play in Athens against Georgia this weekend. Let's see more comments here. Randy, what is up, Randy? Beatty was number 2 player of the day on SVP Sports Center last night. I mean, that might have been the defensive play of the season. I mean, it's hard to say because I know Stephen Milam just produces defensive gem after defensive gem. And not only is he the best defensive shortstop in the country, but he's got a 16-game hitting streak right now, does Steven Monster Milam. So great stuff from him. But that play from Beatty last night was absolutely insane. About to get into some LSU football recruiting coverage before we get out of here. But before that, I want to remind you that we are also very proudly sponsored by NOLA Plumbing and Construction. Devin Nola and his team over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction consistently deliver high quality work. They're known for being trustworthy, dependable, and reliable. If you're in the Baton Rouge area or the surrounding Baton Rouge area and you have any plumbing needs, give the team over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction a call today, 225-512-2900, 225-512-2900 for our friends over at NOLA Plumbing and Construction. All right, I wanted to get into some LSU football recruiting news, talk about a few things before we get out of here. Hold on real quick. All right, before we get out of here, I wanted to touch on some LSU football stuff, specifically high school recruiting, specifically take a little bit of a look at this 2027 recruiting class and how it looks so far. I mean, I know it's very early. Early National Signing Day isn't until December. So I know it's very, very early, but the Tigers have 5 commits so far in the 2027 class, and they landed a huge commitment over the weekend. Wanted to kind of talk about that. But I know other people have talked about it as well. Like my buddy AP from Timeouts and Tangents did a great job talking about this on his show the other day. But I also kind of wanted to talk about it just for a minute and kind of dive into it while we had the chance. Thought it was a good opportunity to. But you know, folks, like the phrase "just different" that has been used a ton over the past month since Lane Kiffin has come here. Lane Kiffin uses it. It's called fire. It's a phrase that is constantly used over and over and over and over again. LSU is just different. And that is the truth. Why are they just different? Well, look at it. Lane Kiffin, folks, signed more 5-stars in a week. In a week, he signed more 5-stars in a week as the head coach at LSU than he did over 6 years at Ole Miss. More 5-stars in a week signed as the head coach at LSU than he did in 6 seasons at Ole Miss. And you know, there's been a lot of back and forth online between LSU fans and Ole Miss fans. I've had a couple Ole Miss fans pop in my comment section occasionally on some of my posts on X and TikTok, and I don't really engage in any of it because I'm not one to get into Twitter arguments or Twitter fights. I try not to, at least. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I indulge in a little bit of it because it's a little bit fun. But yeah, sometimes I talk about it. But it's like, you got to understand when you talk about LSU, when you talk about it being just different, the sheer amount of high school football talent that is in this state is undeniable. Think about all of the LSU football greats that you can name over the years. Most of the greatest football players in LSU program history. You think about, I'll list some of them out. There's so many I could list out, but think about Fournette, Chase, Jefferson, Beckham, Stingley, Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry, Malik Neighbors. There's so many names. Like that's just some of the ones off of the top of my head. Like we could sit here an hour and go through all of the names, all of the greats that have come through this program over the years. And what do most, if not all of them, have in common? They're from this state. They're from Louisiana. They're from the boot. When you talk about just different, when you talk about LSU just being such a unique place, it's not just the people. It's not just the fan base. It's not just a buy-in. It's not just the culture of Louisiana, but the sheer amount of unbelievable high school football talent in this state is almost unmatched anywhere else in the country. Think about this. Think about what you signed in December. Think about Lamar Brown, the number one athlete in the country in the 2025 recruiting class, the guy you signed in December. That guy, Lamar Brown, basically played high school football on your campus at U High, basically. Richard Anderson, another 5-star, another top defensive lineman in the country that you signed in December. Where did he play? He played in New Orleans. He played at Edna Carr. And, think about he played at Edna Carr, and think about all of those phenomenal players that have come through this program over the years that are from this state, and the talent that you have now in a guy like Lamar Brown, in a guy like Richard Anderson. They're all from this state. What is the catchphrase that we've been hearing? The best in the boot stay in the boot. And that's what we're seeing right now with this 2027 recruiting class. LSU has 5 current commitments in this 2027 football recruiting class. Now, it's very, very early. Like I said earlier, the recruiting's only just begun, only just starting to heat up. But I kind of wanted to go through what the class of commitments looks like so far and just go over some things as far as rankings and as far as what is there. LSU currently right now has the number 8 recruiting class in the country according to the Rivals Industry Composite with 5 commitments. Number 8 recruiting class in the country, but 6 of the 7 teams that are ahead of LSU in those recruiting rankings have at least 11 commits. For example, the Oklahoma Sooners currently sit with the number 3 class in the country. They have 21 total commits as the number 3 class in the country. So we kind of saw this in December. The December signing class, high school signing class that you had was not big in terms of quantity, but it was huge in terms of quality. With Lamar Brown, with Richard Anderson, both 5 stars. Another 5-star that you signed in December, and wide receiver Corey Barber. Many more guys that you signed, like Jabari Mack, Bryson Martinez, Havon Finney, many, many more guys that you signed. All of the guys that you signed, it wasn't a big class in terms of numbers, but in terms of average rating, it was one of the highest, best classes in the country in terms of quality. Right now, you only have 5 commitments, and that's going to increase over the coming months. Recruiting is just starting and just ramping up. But I wanted to kind of go through who are the guys you have committed so far. And a lot of this stuff, I do want to give credit to Shea Dixon over at the Bengal Tiger. He does a phenomenal, phenomenal job in his recruiting coverage, Shea Dixon. But the big one, the top one so far, the top commit came this weekend. And man, again, we talk about players from the boot. Like we talked about earlier, what we mean by just different in terms of the people, the talent, the culture, and the high school, unbelievable amount of high school talent that is in this state. Well, that applies to the guy who got a commitment from over the weekend and 5-star tight end Ahmad Hudson. Ahmad Hudson is a 5-star tight end, the number 1 tight end in the country. And where does he play? He plays in Ruston. He plays for Ruston. He's in this state. Again, the best in the boot. Stay in the boot. He's a 6'6", 230, 240 pound 5-star, number 1 tight end in the country, dual sport athlete. He's a top 50 overall prospect, not only in the sport of football, but in the sport of basketball as well. And he chose LSU. I believe he narrowed it down between LSU and Nebraska. He chose LSU over Nebraska. Ahmad Hudson's dad, Antonio Hudson, was actually an LSU basketball player under John Brady, I believe, in the mid-2000s. And it is a big, big get. Because think about what you have at tight end right now. Think about the beast that is the 6'7" Trades Green, who you are so excited and so pumped to see in Lane Kiffin's offense in 2026. Well, Ahmad Hudson is a beast in his own right. Ahmad Hudson is 6'6" and 240 pounds, the best tight end, the top tight end in the country, the heir apparent to Trades Green. After Trades Green leaves LSU and heads to the NFL draft, Ahmad Hudson is going to be the next star tight end in line. And my guy AP from Timeouts and Tangents said this on his show the other day. Like, Lane Kiffin never coached a Trades Green when he was at Ole Miss. He never coached an Ahmad Hudson when he was at Ole Miss. The size, the mismatch, the athleticism, the dual sport nature of not only Ahmad Hudson as both a football and basketball star, but also remember it was the same case with Trades Green, football and basketball star coming out of high school. Like, the athleticism that you're going to have at the tight end position over the next couple of years. Like, not only Trades Green, you could line them up wherever you want to. You could line, like, we've heard reports of them lining Trades Green up in a slot at tight end, lining Trades Green up in the slot. Like, he's going to be one of the biggest, maybe the biggest receiving threats on this team in the fall in 2026. He's going to be one of the best players in the SEC. I cannot wait to see how Lane Kiffin uses Trades Green, because again, he's a matchup nightmare, man. He's a matchup nightmare. And when you put a weapon like Trades Green, and when you give that to Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr., it's going to be that's one of the most exciting things about this season, is seeing how Trades Green is going to be utilized in a Lane Kiffin style of offense. Because again, Lane never coached a Trades Green at Ole Miss, and he never coached an Ahmad Hudson at Ole Miss. But again, that is probably the biggest commitment so far for sure. Ahmad Hudson, 5-star tight end, number 1 tight end in the country, committed to LSU this past weekend. Another 5-star that has been committed to LSU for a while now is a 5-star edge rusher out of South Carolina in Jaden Bryant. Jaden Bryant, 5-star edge rusher, number 1 player in the state of South Carolina in the 2027 class. One of the best edge rushers in the country, top 30 overall prospect in the 2027 class. That was a big signing. Again, like, loading up on the defensive line talent, one of the best defensive line hauls from a high school recruiting class perspective in December. Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, Deuce Gerald, Trenton Henderson, bringing all of those guys in. You add a guy like Jaden Bryant, a 5-star edge rusher, to that. I'm really, really excited for that signing. Again, just adding on to that defensive line talent. Again, having Richard Anderson over the next 3 years, having Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald over the next 3 years, potentially. I know everything can change with the transfer portal nowadays in the day and age of college football that we live in, but the point still stands, and you're bringing in a 5-star edge rusher in Jaden Bryant, who has committed to the Tigers, number 1 player from the state of South Carolina. And one of your defense line coaches, your edge rushers coach, Sterling Lucas, is a big part of Jaden Bryant's commitment because of their prior relationship. Remember, Sterling Lucas coached for a few seasons at the University of South Carolina. So there was that prior connection with Sterling Lucas that ultimately really helped bring Jaden Bryant to committing to LSU. Now, all of these things can change in terms of commitments, and prospects flip all the time and everything like that. But we're just going over who's committed so far and what they kind of bring to this LSU football team. Another big one is 4-star Evangel quarterback Pop Houston, or Peyton Houston, who we've talked about on the show before. Top 10 quarterback in the country in the 2027 class, top 5 player in the state of Louisiana. Credit to Shea Dixon of the Bengal Tiger for some of these numbers. Over Peyton Houston's past 2 seasons as the starting quarterback at Evangel, he's thrown for 8,316 passing yards with 80 passing touchdowns, and he's rushed for 1,632 rushing yards with 19 rushing touchdowns on 197 carries over his past 2 seasons as the starting quarterback at Evangel. And we've talked about it before, and a lot of people have talked about it, like Peyton Houston, Pop Houston's fit within this offense, fit within the Lane Kiffin system, similar to a Jackson Dart, a Mac Corral, a Trinidad Chambliss. Like Peyton Houston fits the mold of what Lane Kiffin wants in a quarterback. And that's why Lane Kiffin has been in talks and been recruiting it like since middle school. I believe Ole Miss originally reached out to Peyton Houston when he was in like the 7th grade. So they've had a long-standing relationship with Peyton Houston, has Lane Kiffin and the staff when they were at Ole Miss. So that's one of the biggest ones as well. There's two others that we can get to. Also have a commitment from Miami from a 4-star wide receiver, Amari Stevens. Amari Stevens, 4-star wide receiver out of Miami, Florida. He's a top 300 prospect on the Rivals industry rankings. His offer list included teams like Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. Again, credit to Shea Dixon for some of these numbers. As a sophomore in Florida high school football, Amari Stevens had 44 catches for 550 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns as a sophomore. And as a junior, he had 23 catches for 312 yards and a touchdown as a junior. That is Miami, Florida 4-star wide receiver, Amari Stevens. And then another recruit committed from the state of Louisiana. This one's recent as well. I believe this happened last week or a week and a half ago. 4-star athlete out of Cecilia, Louisiana, in Braylon Calais. Braylon Calais, 4-star athlete from Cecilia. He's a top 5 athlete in the country, top 10 player in the state of Louisiana, top 200 overall prospect. Braylon Calais has experience and can play both offense and defense. He can play on both sides of the ball, but from all reports, LSU sees him more fitting as a wide receiver in their team, as a wide receiver more than anything. That's how LSU currently sees Braylon Calais. He committed to LSU over Ole Miss. Wanted to throw that in there, by the way. So those are the 5 commitments that you have so far. And think about, again, like the Louisiana talent that you have in Ahmad Hudson, in Peyton Houston, in Braylon Calais. Like that is LSU is a national brand. LSU is growing into a global brand. But make no sense, especially in the sport of football, it starts at the high school level in the state of Louisiana. And Lane has been the portal king for a long time. He has been the portal king for a long time, and he did great things at the portal at Ole Miss, and he did a phenomenal job with the portal in January for LSU, bringing over 40 plus transfer portal prospects to LSU and reinventing and retooling this roster, rebuilding it almost entirely, basically, right? But what I'm excited about with Lane Kiffin is now you give Lane Kiffin the recruiting base of the state of Louisiana. LSU doesn't have to compete with another school in this state. They're not Lane's not in Mississippi anymore. He doesn't have to compete with a school like Mississippi State for recruits. LSU is the flagship of this state. It is the golden, it's the flagship of the state. It's the only one. There is no competition. So when we talk about the portal king, when we talk about Lane Kiffin and all that he's done, rebuilding this roster through the transfer portal, now we're starting to see Lane tap into the state of Louisiana and to the high school recruiting and the high school talent, the unbelievable amount of high school talent that is in this state. And that's just the first 5. That's just the first 5 commits. They're also going after guys like, potentially, turning up the heat on a guy like Easton Royal from Brother Martin, who's the number 1 wide receiver in America. Again, another guy like Easton Royal, the number 1 wide receiver in the country, Where does he go to school? Brother Martin. Where does he play? Well, he's from the state of Louisiana. He's committed to Texas right now, but Lane Kiffin and the staff are turning up the heat on Easton Royal, trying to flip him from Texas. That'll be an interesting situation to definitely monitor. Joshua Dobson is one of, I believe he's from North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina, Joshua Dobson, top 3 cornerback in the country. That's a guy that Corey Raymond has really been targeting and really going after. So that'll be interesting to monitor between Easton Royal, between Joshua Dobson. I know there's also guys like Florida 5-star and the number 1 linebacker in the country, Caden Henderson, who took an official visit to LSU last week or 2 weeks ago, number 1 linebacker in the country out of the state of Florida. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before, LSU had double-digit recruits visit on official visits the weekend before this last one, headlined by some real 5-star talent and a guy like Albert Simeon, one of the best offensive linemen in the country from the Lake Charles area, another offensive lineman, 5-star offensive lineman from the state of Texas in Kennedy Brown. So again, like, it's taking shape. It's going to be interesting to monitor this recruiting class over the next coming months. And of course, a lot to play out here because early National Signing Day isn't until December. But kind of wanted to go through some of those commits, some of those 5 commits. Obviously, the big names from the state of Louisiana: Ahmad Hudson, number 1 tight end in the country, 5-star. Peyton Houston, a top 10 quarterback in the country, 4-star out of Evangel. Talked about Braylon Calais from Cecilia. Talked about Amari Stevens. Talked about, of course, 5-star edge rusher in Jaden Bryant. Those are the 5 so far, but like there are plenty others that LSU is turning up the heat on. Joshua Dobson, Easton Royal, Albert Simeon. Like, it's fun, man. It's fun. I'm so interested in seeing what Lane does and how Lane does in this kind of, because when he came in December, it was like the early National Signing Day was just like a few days after he came, right? But now kind of getting into not only 2027 but 2028 and seeing how it's different for Lane now. It's different for Lane now because he has the recruiting base that is Louisiana, and he has the brand name, the national brand name that is LSU. And I know, like I said earlier, I see a lot of, like, I saw a Ole Miss fan in the comment, or multiple Ole Miss fans in somebody's comments on X the other day saying, "Oh, they're going to go 7-6. They're going to go 7-6. They're not going to do anything," and all of that. Like, it's like Lane Kiffin was the best head coach in Ole Miss history. Over 6 seasons, he had 4 10-win seasons at LSU, made at Ole Miss. Made 10 wins the standard at Ole Miss. I mean, I know Hugh Freeze had a few good years at Ole Miss when he was there as well. But besides that, I mean, really, Ole Miss historically doesn't have a lot to write home about. And you're talking about LSU because of the talent that is in the state of Louisiana and that has come out of this state over the past, quarter of a century. That there's a reason why 3 head coaches have won national championships over the past 25 years at this university, between Nick Saban, between Les Miles, between Ed Ogeron. Like, there's a reason for that because of the state of Louisiana and the talent that is there. So again, I'm very, very, very excited to see what Lane does and how recruiting progresses, because now he's at the flagship university of the state of Louisiana and he has all of the talent and all of the resources that is in this state and at the high school level. And that's just, yeah, man, it's going to be fun to watch Lane Kiffin and this staff work over the coming months when it comes to recruiting. And I just cannot wait for 2026 in the fall season and beyond. I'm just so pumped. One more thing I wanted to add. LSU did add a JUCO prospect signed with LSU last week in JUCO defensive back Levante Williams, who's actually going to come over in the summer, and he'll be with the team in fall camp and will be on the roster for the 2026 season. JUCO cornerback Levante Williams from the Georgia Military Academy. We talked about when it comes to cornerback, when it comes to defensive back, how obviously you believe in absolutely the talent you have in your two starters in DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland. Like, as long as those guys stay healthy, along with at the safety position, guys like Deshaun Spears, Ty Benefield, and Tamarcus Cooley, you could have the best secondary in the country in 2026. But because of Aiden Anding, remember, tearing his Achilles in the spring and being out for the season, the depth behind PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett is a question mark. I mean, you have Jakeem Jackson, Michael Turner, Havon Finney, but you have questions behind Pickett and Woodland when it comes to depth. That's why you bring in a guy like Levante Williams, a JUCO guy from the Georgia Military Academy, and kind of fits the mold in terms of size. Corey Raymond loves getting cornerbacks with good size and that can extend, and that's what he has. I mean, Levante Williams is 6'2" and 170 pounds, so he fits the mold of a Corey Raymond cornerback. So that was one I wanted to add and kind of briefly touch on, adding a little bit more depth in the defensive back room, because that's something that Lane really talked about, was one of his biggest concerns coming out of the spring, because you have a guy like Aiden Anding tear his Achilles in the spring. So there's no spring transfer portal window anymore. There's only one portal window, and that's in January. So the only way to add talent, to add depth, was at the JUCO level, and LSU did that with defensive back Levante Williams from the Georgia Military Academy. That's pretty much all I have. Just want to dive into some recruiting stuff. Been wanting to touch on it a little bit, talk about it a little bit. Just excited to see Lane Kiffin, with what the resources he has in this state and the amount of sheer talent in this state. Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson from the previous class, Easton Royal, Ahmad Hudson, Braylon Calais. Like, think about, again, I mentioned Albert Simeon earlier, one of the best offensive linemen in the country from the Lake Charles area. Like, just think about all the greats, all of the flat out best players in LSU history. Most of them have come from this state, and just excited to see. We know what Lane can do in the transfer portal. We know what he can do in the transfer portal. But now that he has the ability and has the resources to tap in to the state of Louisiana as the head coach of the flagship school in the state of Louisiana, it is going to be fun to watch. That's pretty much all I have on the show today. Let's get into some of the comments. Let's see. Tiger Joker, Will Wade also got to commit high school power forward out of Ruston. Ahmad Hudson, LOL. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ahmad Hudson. It'll be interesting, offers to play not only football at LSU, but also basketball as well. And I think that's the plan, at least for now. And again, when you have a freak athlete at the tight end position, an absolute freak athlete at the tight end position in Trades Green, and now in bringing in Ahmad Hudson for 2027, it's, again, Lane Kiffin hasn't had that. He didn't have that at Ole Miss. So I'm just pumped up to see how Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin are going to use a Trades Green this year. And then how are they going to use Ahmad Hudson? Because it's really something. AP said this on his show the other day, and I completely agree with it. It's really something that Lane hasn't had before. So just kind of wanted to dive into that. Wanted to kind of talk about that. We're going to get out of here, though, folks. I wanted to thank you for tuning into the show today. Top 25 high school basketball recruit. Yeah, I mean, top 50, top 25 high school recruit in both sports, Joker. Like, in both sports. That's how much of a freak athlete Ahmad Hudson is. And think about giving that weapon to Lane Kiffin. It's almost unfair. We're going to get out of here. Thank you, folks. Thank you for tuning into the show. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. God bless. Go Tigers. And remember, as always, love God, love people. Babin on the Bayou.